I'll talk ourselves well. So I just come out for a bit of a walk, and I was just thinking, like going along thinking, and I come across these trees, right? And then so I had this thought that, you can see these trees around here, and most of them are quite healthy, they're in good condition, they're kind of like growing straight up. And then I kind of like thought that maybe that's like some people's lives, you know what I mean? And some people have like kind of clear straight pathways, and then other people kind of have lives like this tree. So I'm just gonna walk down here, and this tree, you see that? So you can see this tree here, and this tree it's got a trunk, so that could be like a normal life. So like talking about myself, so from being planted and then growing to about 7 years old, everything was kind of like normal, do you know what I mean? And then when I was 7, I had kind of like my first traumatic event. I had two traumatic events in 1 year. One was the death of my grandma and not being able to go to a funeral, and the other one was being sexually molested in a public toilet cubicle by a stranger. And so then when you look at it, that kind of like reaches here, and then because of the trauma, this is what happens. So the tree splinters into like many different kind of like fractions, or it goes different ways. And I was just thinking that maybe this is like what happened to my life. So if I walk down here, I might be able to get a bit more of it in. There you go. So yeah, you can see all them different branches and different roots and different growth paths, and they go like right up there. And I think there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different kind of like pathways between these. And I thought that was quite interesting, because you have like 0 to 7 or 0 to 6 like formative years, 7 to 12, which is kind of like a period of transition, from going from primary school to secondary school. Then you have like hormones start kicking in around that time. Then you have your teenage years, and then quite in my mid-teens, I discovered drugs and got into like heroin addiction. And then so like tried going to rehab and tried breaking breaking the addiction, really, breaking the cycle. And I found that sorry, I'm like my brain's whirling because I'm like trying to think of all these different pathways. So then got into heroin, and then that continued till I was 25, 3 attempts at rehab. My son was born when I was 25, so that was kind of like the catalyst for getting clean and for sorting my life out. And then, I kind of like had another son. That relationship broke down, got with somebody else, bought a house, ended up in quite a lot of debt, lost the house, to repossession. Had a lot of stress around that time. A lot of it was my own fault, because at the time I'd, picked cocaine up and I was using a lot of cocaine. And, and then it's kind of like these different pathways that keep tailing off. They're kind of like different strands of life, really. So, there were like different jobs, different relationships. Some of those worked, some of them didn't. And I would say for the past, a good few years, yes, I have experienced mental ill health and mental illness in parts. But this tree signifies to me that whatever your pathway, do you know what I mean? There's always like space for continual growth. And if you look up there, that tree's quite healthy. It might be all these different strands, but then there's like, new life coming on this tree. And that for me symbolises, the fact that you never give up. You continue. You don't just accept, like when I was mentally unhealthy not too long ago, with a trinity of depression, stress and anxiety. that kind of like you know, there's two ways of looking at it. You can either let it become you, or you can think, right, well, I'm going to break this cycle and I'm going to try again. And at the time, you know, I was like really struggling at work, really struggling with my job. I'd gone from being like quite influential to then just being kind of like really disregarded, I felt. And some of that were my own behaviours, you know, my own reflections. But because of like the past and stuff like that, I've never been one to be giving up information freely, you know. But if somebody was to ask me, I would be honest with them. And then I kind of felt like people didn't ask the right questions, and I would go into work and, you know, I knew I was falling down the well massively. You know, and then I broke free from that and got a new job. And then since getting the new job, you know, it's kind of like that change has brought about change. You know, so I posted earlier this weekend weekend just gone, that I had, you know, been working my normal job, been to see a mate, got a donation for Talk Ourselves Well to kick it off to another, you know, another level. I'd facilitated a mental health first aid course in the morning. I'd done the Talk Ourselves Well stroll in the afternoon. I lived between two houses. I caught up with my mates at weekend as well. I'm sure there's something else as well. Oh yeah, opened a PayPal account so everything's accountable and, you know, transparent, because I'm a big believer in that. And it just goes to show, do you know what I mean? It's like, you never give up hope. You just continue, you know. And it's like, I have been in the absolute gutter of life, you know, homeless and picking cigarette butts up to make a cigarette, you know. And it's like eating out of soup kitchens and not having anybody to rely on apart from myself. And sometimes that stands me in good stead, but then in other times it kind of like helps me, it stops me from asking people for assistance, you know. And what I've realised recently is that, you know, if we're going to progress this Talk Ourselves Well thing, and it's what I want to do, I do want to progress it. You know, I don't want it just to be a Darwin thing. I want it to become like a Lancashire thing, and then, you know, a Northern thing, and then a whole country thing. And then, you know, the dream is to, you know, take it worldwide. That is the dream. And by talking and letting it out, you know, or just talking and catching up with somebody and being honest about stuff, or asking people if they're in a safe enough space that, you know, that they're able to listen to you, or even provide you with some feedback, you know, that is important, you know. And it's like talking ourselves well, finding a balance, you know. And I've started rolling out this phrase recently, investing in mental wealth, because I think that the umbrella of mental health, you know, where everything's, oh, it's my mental health. No, it's not. It's your mental illness, it's your mental ill health, it's your mental health, or it's your mental wealth. People need to learn to stop using this umbrella term and to break it down. And if you're feeling mentally ill, because if you're feeling physically ill, you go, oh, my back. You know, start saying to people, oh, you know, my mind's not in a good place. And then if those people aren't prepared to listen, or they're scoffing at you or taking the mickey or whatever, you just need to get them people completely out of your life. They aren't good for you. They're basically energy vampires. Do you know what I mean? And energy vampires will come, spend time with you, suck the life out of you, and leave you feeling horrendous. Do you know what I mean? And I know that. I've been an energy vampire myself to other people, and I've also experienced having the life sucked out of me, because people come and they talk and all that, and then they don't want to do anything about it, and they've just accepted that that's going to be their life. And that's, you know, people might watch this who I used to be friends with and think that that's aimed at them. But it isn't. It really isn't. You know, it's just one of the facts of life that there are energy vampires out there. And if you're one of them people, you know, please, please, please realise and recognise that you can change, but it's got to start with you. You know, it's like I keep quoting stuff about self at the moment, because it does start with us. It is our responsibility. Nobody's coming to save you. Do you know what I mean? People can give you advice, but nobody is going to save you apart from yourself. So bearing with that in mind, I would say, sort yourself well, find a balance, and please invest in your own mental wealth. Peace.